Today I'm in a 2018 BMW 440i Grand Coupe. Wanted to go over iDrive 6.0. A lot of this stuff will be relevant for iDrive 5.0 as well. I wanted to do 6.0 because it does have a couple of slightly newer features. If you have 5.0, you may not have all these features, but for the most part, it's all gonna work the same. I'll try to differentiate the things between 6.0 and 5.0. But starting right off the top, 5.0 and 6.0 both do have a new Idrive controller. So previous generations, the dedicated buttons were slightly different. You did have these back and option buttons with Idrive 4.2. The touchpad controller still carries over. Media is the same. You do now have this communication button, which is slightly different. Menu, that carries over. Map slightly carries over. The positioning of the map button slightly changed, but they still have the map dedicated button and then the nav button that's dedicated here. So these are slightly different setup than previous iDrive controllers. So do keep that in mind if you are accustomed to the positioning of the buttons from previous gens. It's slightly different, but overall same experience, and they're used the same. The menu button, it does have kind of a dual control now. So if you press it once, it takes you to the main screen and brings you up to the home screen. If you have iDrive 5.0, you'll notice that the tile layout is, it's just like, I think it's 5 or 6 just stationary tiles that don't move, and it's just preset the way that it's set up on the home screen. With 6.0, which this is, so one press takes me to the main menu, a second press will kind of zoom me out and allow me to move the tile placement on the main menu. So right now I have my vehicle highlighted. If I take the controller knob and just kind of rock it over to the left or to the right, I can move where the tile's positioned on my home screen. So if you have a preference on how you like to have this set up, you can set it up how you like. Say I want my vehicle to be the first one. Once I have it in position, it'll save that where I want it. So iDrive 5.0 isn't like that, but 6.0 it is. Also with 6.0, if you were to press option on the main menu, contents of main menu, we can slightly adjust what's displayed on each one of those tiles. So right now with the navigation tile, it has the map displayed. Say you had destination input, you could have the arrow display up where it would tell you where your next turn is and the street name and so on. Same with, like my vehicle, you can switch what's under those. Each one of these individual tiles, you can choose what you have displayed. So you can customize it even further. And these tiles, they call it live tiles because they are going to continuously update. So you'll notice the navigation map, it'll actually move and update as you're driving through cities and towns and whatnot. The media and radio, obviously, will update with new artist information and album art and so on and so forth. As well as, things like the weather or the communication. But yeah, pressing menu once and twice will do something slightly different. The media button is very similar to the previous generation. It takes you right into your entertainment, whatever you were last in when you pressed media last. If you press media a second time, it will jump to the list of all the entertainment options. So you have basically the same stuff as you did from previous generations if you're familiar with iDrive 4.2 or newer. Communication, very similar to the telephone button, jumps you right to your communication, your contacts, devices that are paired to the phone, recent calls, that sort of thing. Map, you have a dedicated map button now where it will take you right to the map. Something new about the map button, if you press it once, obviously it takes you to the map. If you press the map button a second time,
navigation is not active.
It'll repeat the last voice instruction. So if you were driving and you're getting directions somewhere, maybe you missed what the nav system told you to do, you can press the map button 2 times. It'll repeat the last direction so you don't have to jump into the nav. There was a way to do it previously where you kind of you had to manually bring it up. There was a couple of steps to get there, but this way is nice. You can just press map twice and you can get the voice instruction to repeat. Nav takes you right back to the nav input screen. So if you want to enter a destination in, you can choose from these selections: point of interest, places you've been previously, or just enter a new address. But otherwise, yeah, the controller is basically the same functionality as previous generations if you're used to that. The other thing that I wanted to touch on about iDrive, the iDrive 5.0 and 6.0, that's a little bit newer, is in media and radio. You do have this list of different entertainment options. So one of the things that's changed is the mode button functionality is different. In previous generations, when you hit mode, it went between the last thing you were listening from the radio menu and the last thing you were listening from the multimedia menu. So if you were listening from the CD, for example, for multimedia, that was the last thing you were listening to in multimedia, and then FM band was the last thing you were listening to from radio. When you hit mode previously, it would just pan back and forth between the two. So it was kind of like the last channel button on a remote control, where it would just jump to the last thing you were listening to. But now the mode button, which is still mounted up here on the entertainment stack as well as up on the steering wheel, now the mode button, it will cycle through your different entertainment selections. So this car is equipped with a head-up display. Let me see if I can get it here for you. So as I hit the mode button, it's going to cycle through all the different entertainment options. And for those that don't have the head-up display, it would look... Let me turn it off. Pardon the glare. The glare is pretty bad, but see, as I hit mode, it cycles through all the different entertainment. I think this is a nice little change they made, and it's a little bit more intuitive to what I think people expect the mode button to do. But yeah, so that's one of the things that's changed in the media, radio. Another thing that has changed is the way that you can personalize the menu. So if you're in media, scrolling to the bottom, you can personalize the menu, and if there's certain entertainment options maybe you never use, you can just remove those from the listing. So say you never listen to AM band, or you don't listen to CD player, you can just uncheck those things. And then what happens is it removes those things from the list here, as you can see. And it will also remove those from the cycle as you press the mode button. So when you press mode, you'll notice that you won't see AM come up anymore or CD anymore. So if those are things that you never use, you don't have to worry about seeing them or worried about cycling through them. You can really customize it. Another thing here with the newer iDrive system, with the navigation, and this is true for 5.0 as well as 6.0. You have in here in the settings, so if you go to route settings, you have this new learn route feature. So I think they were getting a lot of requests from people using the nav system. You know, how can I make it learn the route that I prefer to take? This is a new feature that you can use and turn on and enable, and then it will learn a route that maybe it's not programmed to, execute initially. So if you're familiar with the area and maybe you have a back roads route that you like to take to avoid traffic, you can have the car learn that route, so that way it'll pull that up once you put in the system in the future. Something that's new for iDrive 6.0 though specifically is this Park Now function here. So Park Now is available in select markets, so it's not available everywhere. It does require a connected drive account to log in. Once you get a BMW, they'll help you set up your connected drive account, or they should. So when you initially get it, you'll have this username and password information that you can plug in. But what it does is Park Now, it'll provide you with information on what it anticipates will be available on-street parking in your select market. So San Francisco, for example, is one of the markets that they're rolling this out in. It would give you an idea of what it thinks is going to be a potential open parking spot. So it's not 100% guaranteed, but it's basing it on information that's input in the system, and it's going to be pretty accurate and true to its description here, as if there's an available spot. The other thing I want to show you was in my vehicle, the iDrive settings, and then here in language. And this is on 5.0 and 6.0 iDrive. The one thing too I want to point out is voice control. I've noticed some cars coming in where this is English UK, and the voice input is not as accurate when you're at the UK setting. So just FYI, if you're having difficulty using the voice command system, try checking to make sure your language is set for English US, not UK. I want to say a lot of 7 Series and even some X5s lately have been coming in with UK. So just double check that if you're having trouble with voice commands. But in here too, the server speech recognition, having this on will help the voice command system as well. It'll allow you to use more natural commands as opposed to pre-programmed, determined commands that it will recognize. So having that on will help with that. And then also speaking during voice input, this is a new feature. This is nice if you start using the voice command system and you get familiar with the car and how it responds. In previous generations, what you had to do was just wait for the car to finish its voice prompt before you could say your command. With this feature on, what you can do is just barge in and interrupt if you already know what you're trying to do or trying to execute. You don't have to wait for the car to finish its prompt. You can just jump right in and get there much quicker. So having that on is a nice luxury too. So those things are in my vehicle, and again, that's available for both Idrive 5.0 and Idrive 6.0. Then, if you guys have any other questions about Idrive 5.0 or 6.0, let me know. I know it wasn't a full in-depth review of Idrive 6.0 or 5.0. I did have one that was a little more thorough on Idrive 4.2. A lot of those things will carry over. A lot of the menu items look slightly different, but what you could do in previous gen, you can do in this Idrive and more. But if you have specifics about the Idrive, please let me know in the comments, and I'll try to give you some details on how you can execute what you're trying to do.